here.
All righty, everybody, welcome to the special episode of Brownsville Tech Live. And in the house tonight, we've got Mr. Jason E. Moody. He is running for City Commissioner for the at-large District B. Mr. Moody, welcome.
Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it. Thank you for hosting, and thank you for allowing me to be here as well.
And as most of you know, I have been interviewing most of the city commission candidates up to this point. Mr. Moody is our third interview for the season. And for those of you that are watching, you can watch this show live currently on Facebook, on YouTube, on Rumble, and on X. And then you'll be able to catch a pre-recorded version of the show on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. So if by some chance you missed the show, you can catch the show on one of the other social media platforms that we're on. Additionally, we will turn on the comments for anybody that wants to chime in. In fact, let me do that right now because somebody will get upset if I don't turn on the comments.
That's exciting. Let's see the comments.
Right. All right, so the comments are on as well for anybody that would like to pose or ask a question. And for that, we will move over to another screen when we're ready to do that. So Mr. Moody, could you kind of introduce yourself? You know, who you are, where you've been, what you've done, what's your educational background as well as your professional background? Did you hear me? You there? Hello? Jason? You there? I think I lost you, Jason. You may want to hang up the Zoom session and call right back in because I think we just lost you. Yep, we lost you. Call back in. Hang on, everybody. Mr. Jason will be back. Uh, Hopefully here in a few minutes.
Barbecue cousin.
There you are. Just
All right.
yeah, there you are.
We're back.
Not a problem. Not a problem, sir. It happens. Believe me, it happens. So basically, if you could start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you've been, what schools, what education you've had, and what your professional experience has been.
Yeah, sure. Well, Daniel, I'm born and raised here in Brownsville, Texas. Um, and attended schools here, Episcopal Day School, St. Joseph Academy. I attended 12 years of private school, and then jumped on over to public school with James Pace High School and graduated there back in 1999. So
Ah, you're
kind
a
of
Viking.
yeah,
I'm a
I believe
cowboy,
the
by the way. I'm a cowboy, so I'm from the
border
other
cowboy.
side of I'm from the other side of the city.
So yeah, I just graduated as a Viking, so I'm a product of Brownsville ISD, the school district here, and because I was in top 10%, I had the opportunity to attend UT Austin, and so got in with that opportunity. So I attended UT Austin for a couple of years, and there was this opportunity to come back home and be part of the new communications program, still part of the UT system. So I transferred back home to UTB TSC and was one of the first graduates with the communications program, and so that really launched my career in becoming the youngest town spokesman for South Padre Island. So I graduated in 2005 with my communications degree. I have a bachelor's of arts degree, and so in 2006, like 2 months later, afforded the opportunity to become the town spokesman. And so I was the public information coordinator for South Padre Island. I was the youngest member on a management team and was serving as the youngest town spokesman. So that, launched my career and have my communication studies degree to really move forward in working with public information with town departments. That, of course, it was a township then, now it's a city of South Padre Island, but back in 2005 it was still incorporated as a town because it had like less than 2,500 citizens. So there was that threshold. So I was there for a couple of years, and then got the opportunity to move forward with working with the Cameron County District Attorney's Office. So became the spokesman there as their as working as their public information officer for about 5 years. After I started my term, decided to uh, go into nonprofit work. And there was this nonprofit out of San Antonio. It's a national nonprofit. It's called Operation Homefront, and it was serving America's military's families. And so I was there for about 6 years, and we were doing national work. I mean, this is one of the top national nonprofits where they had about $50 million in their budget, about $25 million in cash, another 25 million in kind. And so one of the programs that I got to work with was Homes in the Homefront program, where JP Morgan Chase was awarding mortgage-free homes through the partnership that was collaborated. So as one of their senior team members, one of the things and responsibilities I had was donor relations. So JP Morgan Chase out of New York had about, almost 600 homes in their portfolio. And so with that, managing or assisting and managing that portfolio was about $150 million. It was about 700 homes across the country. So the thing that I did was, as a public relations manager, was promote the program across the country. So, whether it was going to California or the Carolinas or Illinois, we were awarding mortgage-free homes to America's military families, and that was
Oh
very
wow.
rewarding. Yeah, it was I did that for about 6 years. That was just one of the programs that Operation Homefront provided. They provided financial assistance. They also provided transitional housing. And so with that in my back, with that under my belt, working with veterans and military families, I have that to, put on my resume that, the housing and helping in that perspective,
Right.
So after that, I decided to come back home, and there was an opportunity to serve as the spokesperson for the school district. And so the title was Director of Public Relations and Community Engagement, and serving as their public information officer. And so, that transition was right before the pandemic started.
Uh,
My first day was April 1st of 2020. Um, and that was I mean, I say it's a great experience because I really had to put my crisis and communications hat on, and go through that pandemic. So it started April 1st 2020, onboarded, and I hit the ground running. I had all that experience behind me, serving as the spokesman at the South Padre Island, the DA's office, working, at a national nonprofit, and now at the school district. I brought all that experience back with me to work and serve, the school district community. And so hit the ground running and knew what I had to do was to provide information to, the stakeholders, the students, the parents, and really had to really, provide a lot of information, a lot of important information, to those stakeholders.
Yeah.
And so now, I'm, have a small boutique public relations marketing firm. I've had that I've had a small business since 2012, because on this, not on the side, but as a kind of like a hobby, I've always wanted to help those that are wanting to give back into the community. So I've managed, campaigns back since, I think, starting since 2008. So I've been involved in multiple campaigns on the back end, and now I'm a candidate. So that's really kind of turned around some of the how do I say, perspective of running now. So
Right.
but um now, now in my role as a small business owner, I'm helping small businesses thrive, and trying to brand and trying to market and trying to really change and grow Brownsville in a different way, for innovation, for excellence, or community engagement. So I'm trying to help drive our economy and social progress. So to help them thrive. So
Right.
that's kind of where I'm at now with communications and basically storytelling. So
What made you get into the rat race of running? I guess is the question that I have. What drove you to make that decision? What was it that made you decide to jump in the race?
well, I always had a passion for service. And one of the things that you'll know about me is that I'm always giving back, whether if it's raising money for student scholarships or trying to hold a canned food drive or trying to find, you know, blankets or coats or anything like that. I've always been involved in the Brownsville community for many years. And not only that, but my experience, my background, I really want to use all that on now leading or driving, the city to thrive, But public services is in my blood, both my it kind of started with both my grandparents, my grandfathers. I had a grandfather on my mom's side. He was an immigration officer, worked in customs, and so he was at the bridge, working, daily. And then my other grandfather, on my dad's side, served in law enforcement as well. For over 55 years, he was one of the longest, law enforcement officials. He served as a Texas Ranger, as a Cameron County deputy constable, and then he served as the chief of police in the Laguna Madre area, and then also for Los Fresnos. So, growing up in that setting or that law and order, household atmosphere, holds dear to me because, my family has that lengthy history of public service. And so that's where I, decided, you know what, it's an opportunity now it's time for me to, move forward and try to help the city go in a direction that we need to be thriving.
Right. Right. Give me 1 second here.
Mhm.
Give me 1 second. I've got a viewer that is basically posting a comment. Miss Direlum, she says, "Keep faith. Looking forward to meeting you soon." I guess she's going to meet you soon eventually. For some reason, they're not posting on the screen, but I'll mention them verbally as we transition back and forth. So, all right. All right. So, what do you think are some of the pressing issues that you think we currently are experiencing in our city? I mean, what do you think are some of the pressing issues that we've got currently going on?
Well, my campaign it's not just an ordinary campaign. My campaign is about a movement to build a stronger, more prosperous and connected community for all the residents, and we have so many priorities, but we need to really focus on a comprehensive plan, and really have those priorities in the comprehensive plan. That's part of my platform, is providing a comprehensive plan, and I'm calling it Keep Brownsville Moving Forward plan, to where it's a roadmap for our future. And we're going to prioritize, in this comprehensive plan, whether if it's public safety, investing in our city employees, enhancing quality of life, supporting small businesses, implementing capital improvement projects. So, when I was working at the island, Daniel, in 2005 or six, I believe, we started a comprehensive plan, and to this day, it's there. 20 years later, they still have a comprehensive plan, and it's helped them move forward, guide them, and direct them, and how to be a successful city now.
Mhm.
And that's what we need, because, the state of our economy has changed. Starbase, Texas is in our backyard. Elon Musk is in our backyard. And, I don't think, or I don't believe we are in any way ready or prepared, to provide resources, because once they are incorporated, I know that we will be discussing that a little bit later, where are they going to where are they going to get the resources for police or fire or any of those? So we need a comprehensive plan that's going to prioritize and align our future, and provide that roadmap of where we're going to be in 5, 10, 15, or 20 years. I've seen it at the island. It's been very successful, and that's something that we need here for the city of Brownsville, and for our citizens, for our neighbors, for our community, for our children that are going to be running, the departments of the city in the next, couple of years, so.
Right. Well, one of the things that, you touched on, and you've had some experience, well, quite a bit of experience when it comes to marketing and branding and so forth. And I think one of the things that we've kind of seen in the past is that Brownsville appears to have a marketing problem sometimes when it comes to marketing the city, right? It seems that for whatever reason, everybody, jumps on the McAllen bandwagon, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
and we just, for whatever reason, we just don't tout our city the way we should. In fact, what kind of irritates me a lot of times is when these northern journalists come down here, and I'm not sure when they do, but they start writing these articles of Brownsville being the poorest city in the country. And
Mhm.
of course, for anybody that's traveled past Corpus Christi, you know that Brownsville, regardless of what these journalists say, is not the poorest city in the country. You can go to places in the deep south and you will find poor.
Mhm.
In If you go to Appalachia, you're gonna find poor. If you go to South Central LA, you're gonna find poor. If you go to Houston, you're gonna find poor. So, but it seems that, you know, they write these articles, and then we've got people locally here that jump on the bandwagon. See, there, see, Brownsville is not good because they're the poorest city in the country. But what they forget is the rest of the valley isn't any better if you think about it. I mean, yes, McAllen's got restaurants and maybe a nicer mall, a bigger, nicer mall, but they've got a whole different demographic too, right? They have the luxury of getting all those people from Monterrey that come over and shop. You go any given day down to La Plaza, and you see it, right? You see the cars, and you see that the majority have Nuevo Leon license plates, right? We don't get that traffic down here. We may never get that traffic down here, right? So, but it seems that, we jump on the negative more than we jump on the positive. And I think it has to do with the way we've branded ourselves, or we don't brand ourselves. I mean, what's your take on that?
Well, with my experience working with Fortune 500 companies, working with uh, Cracker Barrel, Outback, Carnival Cruise Line, JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo. I've worked with a lot of our Fortune 500 companies and putting together marketing and communications plans for different events and different activations. And that's something that I can provide direction or provide insight or where do we need to go based on traditional media and non-traditional media, because that's where the landscape is. So we need to look at those two different ways and how we're going to move forward, whether we're going to rebrand the city or if we're going to look at the different particular needs and really attract some of those companies to come down to Brownsville because we're bicultural, biliterate, bilingual. We have a great place to raise a family and, have, great great work to where, like, I'll give you an example, like Char Days, Char Days, we just finished 80, celebrating 88 years. And the reason why we have Char Days is because of the celebration of the culture. And, that was one of the reasons was to help drive the economy to support businesses, right? I mean, that's why it was established back in 1938, was
Right.
to help drive the economy. And so those are things that we need to look forward to and really put into the let's see, am I still on?
You're still on.
Okay, perfect. I hold on, I think I lost. Hold on one second. Because I can't see you.
You should be able to see me.
Okay, there. And okay, so those are the things that we need to like continue to support and really grasp, because again, we live in a such unique area. As I mentioned, we have Matamoros, we have Monterrey, Mexico. I mean, we have the South Padre Island, and so again, our landscape is very unique, and I think we need to take advantage of that in order to attract visitors or attract the tourism or attract folks to spend their dollars here. I think that's something that we really need to instill, have a great marketing communications plan and really put in there that we are a thriving city and this is what we have to offer, so come and join us and have a good time.
Mr. Villarreal has placed a comment that says McAllen doesn't have a big rocket and SPI as a major destination to view launches and much more. What's your take on that?
Well, I think that having SpaceX, Starbase Texas in our backyard is a plus. However, I think, we have to be mindful of the environment, of course, but also mindful of, being careful of how we use the launches per se, because I think there's some concerns on the environment and things of that sort. So, but I feel like, it being in our backyard is great. It's going to help us drive our economy, fill up our hotel rooms, put people in our restaurants, and be here to support that. And I think we still have a long way to go. I believe that it more than likely will get incorporated. I think that there will be Starbase Texas. I think it's going to be a city.
Right.
And that's just kind of what concerns me, because as a citizen or even with families, that's I mentioned it, it's going to draw resources from our city, and we need to be prepared for that, to where, let's just say something major goes out there, or it draws our police or fire or anything like that. Are we prepared for that? Do we have a plan? I know that's going to come down the line, and that's something that we need to be prepared for. And that's where, again, going back to the comprehensive plan, keep Brownsville moving forward plan, is we need to put those details in there, because if they're gonna grow, we're gonna grow too. Because if people are moving down here and they're not going to be living at Starbase, they're going to be living in Brownsville,
Yeah.
and so the housing market is just going to continue to rise and go up. But like I said, our state of the economy has changed drastically, to where we need to be prepared for it, and even making sure that our employees are getting paid the fair market value of salaries, you
Right.
know. And I don't think the city, I know that recently, at least I think it's been a couple of years already, they have been getting a raise, but I think it's been a long time. I think it was like back in 2014, or I don't know the last time that there was some cost of living raises, but that's going to be a priority, you know, for me to make sure that our city employees are getting the cost of living, the raises, or at least the fair market salaries that they deserve, to make sure that our city is kept, safe, or making sure that our departments are running smoothly. And, I think that's something that's important, is making sure that we have competitive raises or stipends, and in order to retain the talent, and boost the morale. We need to do a climate survey. I think that's something that's important to hear back from city employees, because, I did climate surveys, at Operation Homefront, and that helped the organization shift or change to be prepared for the future.
Right. Well, one of the things
Mhm.
that you touched on, obviously, is there have been some concerns, right, with regards to Starbase and particularly SpaceX, right? And one of the things that you know, I do want to clarify for everybody is that I don't think there's anybody out there, whether you're on the left or the right of the political spectrum, that wants a dirty beach, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we all want to have a clean beach. We all want to have access to go to the beach and so forth. But I think one of the things that, at least the approach that it's been taken by some of the environmental groups, and by the way, we've got a comment there on the screen as well, has not been the most smartest way to uh, express those concerns. And I'll give you an example of one situation which I think is is something that I think our city leadership has not done. They've not been vocal when it comes to this kind of behavior, right? Where they and you're aware of what has been going on for several years by some of these groups. They first attacked the mural, the pink
Mm.
mural that nobody liked. I liked the pink mural, by the way. I loved it. I don't know what the problem was with everybody, but a lot of people didn't like it, right?
Mhm.
But obviously, they went and took that first mural, and I believe that they said a four-letter word, SpaceX, right?
Mhm.
And they, they've gone around the city. The next one, which I'm not going to post because it's beyond posting, but it was a four-letter word to SpaceX and a tremendous to top it off, right?
Mhm.
And then, of course, now we had this happen to a private mural, right? And the whole my whole point to all of this is I think the approach that some of these groups are funded, by the way, by the Sierra Club. There is ample evidence of of them being funded by the Sierra Club, right? And I think that if we want a seat at the table with SpaceX, there has to be a better approach. We just can't be doing this kind of stuff. And then I've been really disappointed in our in our city leadership because, quite honestly, silence equals complacency,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
We should call this kind of behavior out, because it sets the wrong example, you know.
I'm a person that likes to have that open communication. When I don't condone vandalism or graffiti or anything like that.
Right.
So I think that should be, the way I look at it, because I worked at the DA's office. I think that should be prosecuted, of course, to the fullest
Right.
extent of the law. I think, that I don't condone that. I think that's, wrong. I don't think it's right. I think that, that again, that should be looked at. But again, everybody has, again, it's their freedom of speech. Everybody has that First Amendment right to where they can, but use it on your own platform. Use it on you
Right.
know, your own time, and
Yeah,
that don't use it.
don't go
Yeah,
out and vandalize
yeah,
work
yeah.
that's been done by somebody else. I mean, look, the thing is, and by the way, you've got some viewers. Way to go, Jason Moody. We love you. Monique Yanez, right? I mean, for example, the pink mural that nobody liked. Well, I shouldn't say nobody, but it took a lot of heat, right? Um, that was a lot of work to do that, right? And
Yes.
for somebody to go and just spray paint over it, um, was just not the right thing to do. I mean,
Yeah, it's disheartening because it
everybody's
is
got
talent, showcasing talent, and it's disheartening to see it. And I think, again, there's other ways to voice your opinion, and
exactly,
there's always
exactly.
a right time and place for that. And if it's if it's, coordinating with, a city committee meeting or anything like that, and then use that platform, and do it that way.
Exactly. Yeah, one of
Yeah.
the things that, as you well know, is that, around 8 to 10% of people vote in general for city and county elections. But of course, after all is said and done, well, everybody complains, right? And usually the ones that complain are the ones that didn't go out to the ballot box to begin with, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And so that's where the concern is, that if there is a concern, it needs to be expressed the right way, right? Uh, and if we want a seat at the table, I really firmly believe that Boca Chica Beach today is cleaner than it was even before SpaceX. And the reason I say that is because, let's face it, let's be honest. Boca Chica Beach prior to SpaceX was about dirty diapers, broken beer bottles, rusted fish hooks, and on occasion, an abandoned car, all for high school students to come and pick up after that mess on beach cleanup day.
Mhm.
That's what it was. It was horrible. Now
Right.
we've got federal agencies, state environmental agencies, who are constantly monitoring what goes on down there, specifically because of the rocket launch. Now,
Right.
does that give SpaceX a reason to be dumping untreated water into the estuaries? Of course not, right? But I think it's safer. And the last thing that I've always mentioned is they've been launching rockets from Florida for 60 years, and they have
Mhm.
not lost a single alligator or a manatee in that time, as far as I know, right? So we need to have a, we need to have a, if we want
We
to
haven't
see
lost
it,
any turtles yet, so
yeah,
or not that I know.
yeah, we need to have a different kind of approach when it comes to dealing with
Mhm.
SpaceX, and it can't be confrontational. It just can't
Right.
be.
Has to
You
be
know,
inviting, it has to be
it has to be
approachable.
inviting.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I think that's something that we just need to, because for far too long, our city leaders have been silent when it comes to this kind of behavior, and it needs to stop. It just needs to stop. You know, but you know, it is what it is for right now. But let me. What is it, the person? The type of paint. Mr. De Leon says, why doesn't the person or persons involved in this type of behavior paint this on their own property, own house? Well, that's true, right? I mean, they
Yeah.
should, but you know. Uh, so let's talk a little bit about economic growth. What are your plans with regards to economic growth? What do you think we can do to, uh, you know, further spur economic growth? I mean, we've had growth, right? We continue to have growth. I'm still waiting for my PF Chang's, okay? I'm still waiting for my PF Chang's. I'm probably not going to see it because I think it's a franchise out of
Mhm.
McAllen, and they've got those franchise rules, but I'd love to get a PF Chang's before anything else.
Yeah.
So, what's your take? What can we do to spur economic growth? I mean, you've had some experience at the island, and uh,
Well, I think we need to attract, you know, businesses that are going to want to stay here for the long run. As a small business myself, we need to support other small businesses here locally as well. It's the heart of our economy, and with programs and resources to help them thrive, such as BCIC, I think they're doing a great job with the eBridge and other programs, and I think we need to continue doing that. But I think we need to make sure we have a more community, maybe a more community approach to where let's make sure that everybody knows about the different programs and resources, because I feel like there's still some gaps that need to be filled that not everybody knows about, that there is
right,
help out there. And that's again, what are we doing? And that's part of the, again, going back to the comprehensive plan or the marketing communications plan, what are we doing to fill in those gaps to make sure that the 20 or 30-year-old small business have what they need to thrive, not simply just to struggle and to get by and meet needs, but do they have everything they need to thrive? Back in 2011, I don't know if you remember when the buses were still downtown. Um,
yes,
um, had a good friend of mine. We kicked off an event called Sounds of Downtown, and it was basically to help revitalize downtown. And so we started out with a Char Days event, but then we kind of we kind of realigned it to have it during Dia de los Muertos. And
Right.
so for about 6 or 7 years, we hosted an event called Sounds of Downtown. And basically we had music that you would hear downtown, such as a conjunto group, a mariachi group, or a trio. And so back in 2011, we kind of started this Sounds of Downtown, and we were one of the first events to have something downtown. And so it's programs or events like that that we need to think outside the box and continue to have, so that way we have that economic growth or economic thrive for our city. You know, downtown is growing, and everybody's kind of focused on having events downtown and being downtown with different businesses and either apartments or lofts and restaurants, and which is great. But I think, you know, we still need to focus on the other things that are a priority, and making sure we have public safety, because I've spoken to a few businesses downtown that public safety, that, you know, there is some concern that we still don't have maybe police officers you know, patrolling, and that's something that is very important to me, you know, and making sure that we have police officers, you know, patrolling and supporting them and making sure that they have the tools and resources to keep our streets safe. Um,
Well, one of the
so
things that you touched on, one of the things that you touched on was with regards to downtown, right? And one of the questions that I asked last night, because it wasn't really an issue last week when I interviewed the first candidate, but it kind of people started contacting me about asking this question. So I hope you don't mind. It wasn't on the sheet, and it's not
oh yeah,
really a
okay.
it's not really a surprise question, by the way. But I think you'll relate to it. Basically, people called me over the weekend and said you've got to ask with regards to Sombrero Fest, right? There was a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
complaints. There's been complaints for a few years, right, with regards to Sombrero Fest and whether it should be continued to be held in Washington Park, or whether we should consider moving that whole event over to the sports park. And one of the complaints is that there's a lot of people. There's nowhere to park. Um, I mean, you name it. Yeah, you've probably heard the complaints. So
Yes,
what's
I've
and I
heard
was trying to
about.
explain to these people because I really didn't want to dive into the question. So I was kind of explaining to these people what my thought process was with regards to Sombrero Fest. I basically said, well, and you touched on this with regards to downtown. Downtown's growing, right? They're renovating. We've have
Mhm.
bars and restaurants now, which weren't there, several years ago. And so to this gentleman that was telling me about this, I said, well, maybe one of the reasons is because, after the festival, they can go down to the bars or they want to go down to eat at the restaurants. I mean, I don't know, but I get it. I mean, I get why the complaints are there, right? Because there's just not a whole lot of room. In fact, somebody was telling me that the attendance, I think Friday, was like over 10,000 people for some of those concerts, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's your take? And by the way, one of the things that I talked about last night was, okay, well, if BISD decides, and it's hypothetical. I'm not predicting. I don't have a crystal ball or anything like that. I have no inside secrets. You probably have a few insiders you can talk to. But if for some reason they decided to close PuteNet, wouldn't it make sense for the city to go out and buy that whole block and maybe expand it? I don't know. I mean, what's your take on this whole thing with Sombrero Fest?
Well, there's a lot of potential, I'll tell you that much. I know that a couple of years ago, I think there was even discussion about having Sombrero Festival at the Brownsville Sports Park, you know, and moving or relocating it out there. You know, I've been a member with Chardays since 2008 or 2009. You know, I've you know, participated in Sombrero Festival many years now. I think they just celebrate their 40th anniversary. And so, there are some mixed feelings about it, about whether or not they should have it at the sports park or leave it at the Washington Park. And I think the consensus is to keep the tradition going at Washington Park and to leave it there and just kind of maybe work with the territory that's there. But I think it maybe again, it goes back to having that further discussion about, sitting down and looking at the alternatives. But I think the consensus is that, having it at Washington Park, it's been a tradition. We're going to keep it here and, and just maximize it every single night as they say, and just, keep the tradition alive and just have it there at Washington Park. Now, I know that it is there is congestion. Yes, there is hard. Just people have hard time parking and
I mean,
and
there's some people
there's some.
charging some excessive prices for parking. I mean, some people that own
Oh, and
property
then
down there.
yes, and then Brown we posted that homeowners cannot block the street, like people put cones or put chairs or put something in the streets, and you can't do that. That's not, you can't do that. It's illegal to do that. You can't put a cone there and charge outside your home in the street because it's a public space. And so, but yeah, they charge $20-$30 a car, and so, but you know what, if it's gonna help that family for that weekend, you know because again, everything's getting so things, groceries are expensive nowadays, and hey, if it's
Right.
something that helps that family, and buy groceries for that weekend or something that they have to pay a bill or something like that, and that's going to help them, then fully support that. But do it the right way,
Right.
but I think, Sombrero Festival has grown, of course, each year, and every year, they've been doing so well. They do give back to community. They do provide that another avenue of economic growth for small businesses, even restaurants, to participate in Sombrero Festival and get their name out. So that way, then when they do go back to their restaurant, they know that they can, have that growth and support from the community. um, but it is a touchy subject because a lot of folks, they want to keep Sombrero Festival at Washington Park because it's been a tradition. That's where it started. That's where it's been, and relocating it or having it at a different location, kind of will be some growing pains. But I think it's a discussion worth having, to where if there's growth, then let's look at how they can grow. Like you said, if it's, you know, purchasing land or some type of partnership, then that's being creative. And people come down to Char Days or even Sombrero Festival because it's something that they've done since they were kids. Like, since I was 3, I've danced in different dances since I was 3 and participated in the parades, and many other people have as well. And it's just part of the culture and part of the tradition. And so that's something that we need to continue to support. So that way it provides that economic growth for small businesses and for the organizations.
Well, one of the things that I talked about during the last 2 interviews, and it's still the same um, topic with regards to what I call the money bleeding that happens in this county, right? It's just not the city, but it's the county. One of the things that has become um, pretty prevalent has been the lack of a multi-venue in the
Hmm.
area, right? We had an opportunity twice already to
Right.
vote on a multi-venue, and I call it a multi-venue because if I use the term arena, the cats will come out in full force, claws and teeth, right? So
Mhm.
I want to avoid that. But one of the things, and by the way, in both votes, it lost by a hairline. It wasn't
It was close. It
it
was
was very
close.
close in both instances. But one of the things is, you hear a lot of people complain, oh, Brownsville doesn't have anything. Brownsville doesn't have anything to do. There's no concerts. There's no this. There's no that. That's why we have to go to Edinburgh and we have to go over to Hidalgo because, you know, um, we don't have anything. But we had an opportunity and we decided that we didn't want it because we had this impression that our property taxes were going up. Well, guess
Right.
what? Our property taxes went up regardless, right?
Yes.
But but my question to you is, what has happened since those votes? Well, number one, UTRGV has decided not to hold commencement ceremonies for our Brownsville graduates. So now
Right.
Brownsville families and their students and their relatives have to travel an hour away for commencement because we don't have a venue here large enough to actually hold commencement. We recently found out last year when Veterans Memorial actually made it to state that even Sam Stadium was inadequate for a state competition, let alone
Sure.
parking,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And of course, BISD for a long time, and you probably were there, talked about a performing arts center, right? And so we don't have anything, right? The Brownsville Event Center was a great idea, but it's way too small. In fact, we didn't gain anything from building the event center because square footage, inch by inch, it is smaller than even the old Jacob Brown was, right? And of course, the sports park, for whatever reason, is underutilized. But I believe that that we need a multi-venue. Now, whether that be something that the city takes on its own, or the county, or maybe a combination of city, county, and maybe a private billionaire 27 miles away from us that may be wanting to share the wealth a little bit, who knows? But there's got to be a different approach. And so, what's your take? I mean, there is
Yeah,
definitely
no,
a problem with people sitting at Sam Stadium on in June in the sweltering heat to watch their
mhm.
kids graduate. I mean, it's absurd. I mean, what's your take? I mean, are you
Well,
for a
I've gone through.
multi-venue? Or are you not for a multi-venue?
Well, I like the idea,
Yeah,
but I think there needs to be some type of study, maybe a feasibility study. I think some type of survey because we need more information, I think, basically of how the structure is going to be laid out. I think the two times that it went to the voters, there wasn't there wasn't education, there wasn't voter education, there wasn't information about the background, whether how was it going to get paid, where was it coming from. There wasn't enough information, so I feel that that's why it didn't pass. Maybe, um, you know, I think you know informing the voter is important. I think letting them know and being transparent is important. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm running too, is because we need to be transparent about all these different projects, and
right.
communicate. You need to educate. And so with this multi-venue, I like the idea, but I think, we need to make sure that the taxpayer, if it's going to come from taxpayer money, like that it's going to be, we need to make sure it's spent wisely. I don't like putting, we basically, if it's going to be in type of savings or anything like that, yes. If it's not, I mean, we really need to look everything from A to Z, and have that feasibility study, have that survey, whether who's going to use it, who can participate. And, I've gone through 35 graduations, so, I was at the school district for 5 years, or, there was 7 graduations each year. And so, I've gone through, quite a few. And so, yeah, it is hot. And, to do it 7 times in 1 week, back to back, it's quite exhausting. But it's rewarding to see them, cross the stage and see family members in the seats and stuff like that. But you know one, we need to make sure that the community is educated about it. We need to do some surveys, some studies, and seeing how this is going to be laid out. That's one of the things that is important to this project. I don't know if it's going to be on the May or November ballot. Do you know, or
I don't
is
know.
that some?
I've been trying to reach out to the county judge,
Yeah, I
and
was
but I
actually
have not
gonna.
gotten a response.
Yeah, I was supposed to meet with him this week because I wanted some more information about it, because he did present this. He did present it to the school board last month, And there was some information that he was discussing about having maybe or there was some discussion about having it with the school or commencement, and that was brought up. But again, recapping, I think that we really need to look at this multi-venue opportunity if it's doable. Again, let's survey, let's get some folks to provide us some insight about it and go from there. We
Yeah,
really need to make sure.
because one of the things that I think a lot of people didn't understand during the initial ballots was the majority of it was going to be funded by a hot tax, a hotel tax, which the majority would be from outsiders, right? Unless, somebody like me and you went down to the island, right? That was one thing. That was not successfully communicated. All you heard was sales tax, property tax, property tax, property tax, right? Number one. Number two, what people don't realize is that when people go to to Edinburgh and Hidalgo, they're just not going for the concerts. They're going to go out there. They're going to go to the concert. They may go earlier to go eat, and that's money that ends up in somebody else's pocket, right?
Mhm.
They go out there to do more than just go to concerts. They go eat. They go shop at that mall, right? Not only that,
Mhm.
if it's too late or they're too tipsy, they're going to stay at a hotel in McAllen, right?
Right.
And so the mere fact that it's just not the concert or the venue, it's everything else around it that we lose out. That's money leaving this area
Mhm.
to go to that county over there. And
Right.
I think that, and by the way, for the county judge, please don't do enchilada plates the next time around. Please. Fajita tacos. Something that's good, but not enchiladas, please.
There's another comment. I wanted to read the comment, see what that. Remember
The
I can't read it.
Friendship Garden, the auditorium. Yes, I remember. We had a.
Was that
I
by the
had
bridge?
I had my high school senior lockout at the Friendship Garden. It was a nice building.
I performed there when I was in Episcopal Day School.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, one of the things is that I know that you're running for at-large B, and I know that
Correct.
you're not district specific. You're, the entire city. But one of the things that I want to talk about a little bit is with regards to the airport. And once again, you've got branding and marketing experience, and I think there is no doubt that we seem to have a problem when it comes to marketing the airport. In fact, I get pretty annoyed when I see comments on the airport Facebook page, and there's some people claiming they didn't even know we have an airport, which is kind of ironic, right? I don't think that's really real. I think just somebody's trying to be a troll, right? But we do have a problem. I mean, we do have a problem, right? We've had a problem for a long time in getting our citizens to fly local, right?
Mhm.
And part of it is because obviously, uh, Southwest is a big factor, right? They've got cheaper airfares because the other carriers, with the exception of Delta, fly out of Brownsville just like they fly out of Harlingen, right? And obviously McAllen is no cheaper than Brownsville either. In fact, they're probably just as expensive or even more in some cases, right? So, what can we do about marketing our city, our citizens to fly Brownsville? Because for me, it's convenient. If I have a choice between where to fly and it's a matter of having to drive 27 miles away, I'd rather not drive 27 miles away, regardless if there is a restaurant at the airport or not. Personally, I don't even like to eat before a flight because my stomach gets kind of queasy. But anyway, bottom line is that we have a marketing problem. And it seems that our citizens don't fly local the way they should. And of course, we've had a few carriers that have come and gone, primarily these ultra low cost carriers that, have flown to, pretty nice destinations, Orlando, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and for whatever reason, they kind of pulled out. Now, does that mean that they pulled out because they had no business? I doubt it.
Mhm.
With regards to Avelo, it's just the way they operate. It wasn't just this week that I read that they're pulling out of all kinds of cities, and all kinds of cities are pissed off because of the fact that they kind of pulled out, right?
Uh,
Not because they didn't have any business. It's just the way they
They
they're
operate.
it's just the way
Yeah.
they operate. I mean, what's your take? What can we do to improve uh, the flow to the airport and trying to get that traffic?
Yeah, well, I know I mentioned that we're in a unique destination, and to look at another destination that is similar, there may be one in California, whether if it's San Diego or another hotspot. Um, but I kind of am going to be in agreement with you to where we've seen so many of these carriers come in and out. We have a brand new airport terminal and
The
thanks to,
nicest in the valley, by the way. The nicest in
federal,
the valley.
yeah, it's really nice. I've been out there a couple of times, and I'm glad that they have different activations to try to, you know, um, you know, bring more awareness to it. And I think again, it goes back to how can we maximize the potential on it where we can use it every single day, have another carrier. I'll be honest with you, I like Southwest because they have a rewards program,
Right.
I was flying, for 6 years across the country and racked up almost 70,000 points, and so I like that. And that's something that maybe we need to look at in providing incentives to the business community here in Brownsville, and have a grassroots approach to where let's visit all the different businesses here and try to provide some type of incentive program or try to see how we can enhance, you know, you know, uh, the passenger convenience or look at how we can promote, the competitive pricing or look at let's see what McAllen's doing or let's look at San Diego or, we really need to increase the awareness through marketing and PR and really put a solid plan together. And that's what I don't, I don't think there is one because the city has gone out for RFP, I think multiple times, trying to look for an ad agency to really promote the airport, and they have not been successful. And I think they've
Right.
already gone out, I think a couple of times already, and trying to solidify an agency or someone that has the experience to really push the marketing efforts.
Well, yeah, it's one thing to go out and pay millions of dollars like McAllen did to go get this designation that they're the Dallas Cowboy or they're the airport of the Dallas Cowboys. Personally, I've
Mhm.
never seen a Dallas Cowboy fly into McAllen, and I wouldn't see any reason why they would. But obviously, they keep on touting that horn, right?
Right.
That they're the official airport of the Dallas Cowboys. I hate to break it to them, they are not the official airport of the Dallas Cowboys. It's DFW and Love Field as far as we know, So, but anyway, I get a chuckle every time I hear that because I haven't seen a Dallas Cowboy fly in and out of McAllen in any in recently. So,
Well, I hope
um,
that answers your question and recapping that. I think that, I think now that I think SpaceX uses the airport, I think that we need to kind of take advantage of that and maybe even look at that option,
yeah,
So, I mean, yeah, we need to be creative.
right. Well, one of the things I wanted to touch on a little bit was with regards, as you well know, there was a change in administration in January, and obviously there's been a crackdown on immigration. And of course, the city of McAllen has been at the forefront of basically saying that they are not going to participate in any immigration crackdown as far as their police, their local law enforcement participating in that. And you've heard the stories. You've heard the stories, especially in Los Fresnos. They've been hit pretty hard lately. Um, that's not to excuse some of the behavior from some of the businesses down there, which obviously should have known better, right, than harboring people like that. But
Mhm.
what is your take? Should Brownsville take an affirmative step to say that our police officers are their first and foremost duty is to protect the local citizens and leave that immigration enforcement to our federal officials?
Right, and it's a fine line, we're again by the border and everybody has a role, Border Patrol has their role, federal agencies have their role, and we can't cross that line. While I was working at the school district, we had several schools, just Veterans High School. It's out of 281. And so we had multi-agency meetings every quarter. I think it was every quarter, every 6 months. And so we had to work with federal agencies, of course, Border Patrol or ICE or anything like that, because whenever there was any type of incident or anything like that, then we also have to be called onto the front line. So we all the agencies have to work together. And I think everybody has their own role, and I think that sticking to each of the different roles, then we can be successful. Border Patrol is going to stick to their responsibilities and what they have to do, and if there's a need to support, then it comes to the point to where then yes, we will support. But I think we need to prioritize, and continue to prioritize that keeping our streets safe and secure is a priority, with our neighbors, so I think having that said, again, it's a fine line. I think, it is a hot topic, especially living here in Brownsville. And I think, we just need to focus on the roles and the responsibilities of the law enforcement agencies, and that's how it's successful. We have those plans in place and prioritizing, where that needs to be lied, so
Right.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the things that I guess I have a concern, obviously,
Mhm.
and is that we really there is a fine line. I mean, I personally believe that when it came to what happened in Los Fresnos, I'll be honest with you, I think the majority of those raids were because somebody reported
Mhm.
another, potentially one business reported the other, right? It's
Mhm.
not that they didn't know. Of course they know. I mean, we've known for years certain businesses, even some of your larger corporations, look the other way, right? Um, but I think that there is a I do have a concern. I think those are easy targets, right? They're PR stunts primarily because they don't go after the Walmarts, they don't go after the Tyson farms, they don't go after the real abusers of taking advantage of people, right? There are companies today up north that literally take advantage of immigrants and they hire them,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And so they don't go after those, right? They don't go after those, but they go after a small bakery, right? They go after a small bakery, a small business. But my biggest concern is
In Los
obviously,
Brothers. Okay, yeah.
right, those are easy targets. But I have a
Yeah.
concern when it comes to what I hope not to see is them going into a school, right? I hope we don't get there, you
Yeah,
know,
neither do I. I hope that doesn't
right?
happen, right?
Because I don't support that because that's not a good thing, right? That's not to say that we shouldn't enforce the law, but I the dividing line for me is schools and churches.
Mhm.
Churches, for as long as we know, have been sanctuaries. And I'll use the word sanctuary. They have
Mhm.
been sanctuaries for the oppressed, regardless,
Mhm.
right? And I think we personally for me, I have a problem with that, right? Churches and schools is the last place we should be going into. I think we should go to the poultry producers that, go after these immigrants. They should go after the
Mhm.
Walmarts, right? They should go after the big companies. They should go after the construction firms up north, right? And but that's where I believe the problem is we pick the small ones. That's not an excuse for the small ones to be doing what they're doing, right? I'm just
Right.
saying that hopefully we don't get there. And I think personally, our law enforcement have enough work as it
Mhm.
is
They do.
to keep our streets safe
Mhm.
and our and and to enforce the local laws. And I personally believe that it should be a federal it's a federal issue and it should be
Right.
handled by federal law enforcement.
No, that it is, and um, there, I mean, there is a presence here, but again, it is a federal issue, and it needs to be handled at that level, and I agree with you on that.
Yeah, you know, because at the end of the day, it's a federal issue. It started off
Mhm.
as a federal issue, and it's going to be a federal issue, right? So, you know, it's just something that's a very hot topic, and I know we've had swarms of people come back and forth. I was a government contractor. I dealt
Mhm.
with some of these private contractors that helped these agencies. I know how that stuff works, and it's just something that I hope we don't get there. But McAllen's been pretty vocal about what they will and will not do, and I just wanted to see what y'all's take was on whether we,
Sure.
what the role of our local law enforcement is when it comes to this issue. So
Yeah, and it's again that it's that fine line, but you know, our police officers need to focus on the priority of, keeping our streets safe, making sure the crime is down, and and if it comes to the point to where, there is, border patrol, or if there's an immigration issue and their support, then it's on a case by case basis. I think that's how we have to look at it too. So.
right, right, yeah. With regards to one of the things that sometimes certain political candidates and even office holders is they're not always accessible when it comes to the citizens they serve.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of people come and go that, for whatever reason, have either been accessible or not accessible. Right? There have been, office holders that have been less than nice to their constituents from time to time. And if you are uh, elected, will you promise that you will be accessible to the community that you serve and that you'll be respectful regardless of who they worship, who they love, who they, whether they're black or white, brown, uh, whether they're Republican or Democrats,
No,
or
most
or
definitely.
or anything in
Yeah,
between.
yeah, no, no, most definitely. And that's why, one of the well, my main slogan is moving all generations forward, because it's not just about supporting the retirees or the LGBT community or the family that's thriving or that's afraid that, if it rains, that are they going to have problems, in the future with their home. I mean, I'm here to represent everybody, and to be accessible over a 20-year span, serving as a public information officer for different entities. I was on call 24/7, and just to give you an example, whether if it was a drowning or a fire at the beach, I was on call, had to go out there and work. Whether there was a shooting, at the school district, that we had a couple years ago at Porter, being accessible. That's what it's all about, and that's what it's all about being a public servant, you know, um, and then being there for the community in the good and the bad. And that's, one of the promises is making sure that, I am accessible and that I'm representing everybody in our community. Yeah.
All right. Well, we've gone quite a bit of time. We've actually gone an hour and 8 minutes. We thought we were going to do everything in 45, but
Yeah.
if 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 you could you kind of give us a little bit of a recap of why you believe that you're the best candidate uh, to to be elected to at large be?
No, yeah, sure. And that's a question that I'm getting more and more consistently, because I have three other opponents, and I'm not running against them, and I'm running for the seat, and to represent the city of Brownsville, and represent all generations. You know, I've worked for a city, I've worked for a county, I worked for a major nonprofit, and working for the school district has really placed me in a great position to where I can use that to the benefit of our city in moving forward and having a plan and prioritizing all of our departments and really put us first to thrive, not simply to struggle to get by, but to really thrive, from small businesses to our schools, to our families that are here in Brownsville, to improve our streets, to improve our drainage, to look at our capital improvement projects, to support the county in the endeavors of, becoming bigger and better, and really putting us on the map. I'm here for our community. I'm here to hear everyone and their concerns and really see how we can move together as a family, as a community, with our neighbors, hand in hand, and really thrive. And that's basically what I'm here for. Yeah.
All right. And just so that the viewers and the voters out there know, when is the start of early voting and when is the start of the actual election? I've got it on the ticker down there, but they need to
Mhm.
hear it from you.
I know April 22nd is the first day of early voting, and it runs until the 29th, and election day is May 3rd, and that's a Saturday. So there's about a week of early voting, and election day is on Saturday, May the 3rd. So I believe we have about less than 60 days, maybe 45 days, um, or before we get underway. So I'm hoping to knock on many doors, many family, friends, and neighbors, and really get out the vote and really spread the message of why I'm running and my platform, the priorities, the comprehensive plan that the city needs, and looking forward to meeting new people out there.
All righty. Well, Mr.
Yeah.
Jason Moody, it was a pleasure having you on the show. I hope it isn't the last time. You're always welcome to appear at any time, win or lose, right? Um, it's been a great evening getting to know you and what you what your vision is for Brownsville. And we wish you the best of luck. And like I said, come back at any time.
Thank you, Daniel, and I really appreciated allowing us to be here and really, talk about our background and provide information to the local voters on the candidates.
It was a pleasure having you. And for those of you out there, once again, as Jason mentioned, early voting starts on the 22nd. It goes through the 29th. And the actual election is on May 3rd. So for those of you out there, if you don't vote, you cannot complain. So make sure to go out there and make your voice heard. And once again, Jason, thank you for appearing, and we hope to have you back soon.
Thanks, Daniel. Have a good night. Have a good
Good
evening.
night. Bye bye. Give me a second, Jason, while I shut the services down.